This is the Monday, July 7th meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Subcommittee of the, what are we?
Transportation.
Have the Transportation Committee. Let's do the roll call and introductions. Let's just go around.
Hi, my name's Will. I'm a marketing associate and media designer for City Car Share, nonprofit based in San Francisco with now operations in Emeryville, Oakland, and Berkeley.
Betsy Cooley, I remember.
Brian Donahue, member.
Ken Bukowski, member, photographer.
David Pittsburgh.
Laura Mickey, member.
Sarah Billings, planning staff.
Marcy Greenhead, Public Works.
Tom Modic, chair, and over.
Rob, who are you?
I am a writer, editor.
You don't have to say.
No.
Well, we're doing
You
introductions.
don't say, I mean, if it's their choice, if they want it, if they
Okay.
Okay.
don't legally have to say. If you want to, you can say.
Sure, I'm not gonna hide. Robert Arias,
We can't hear. Sorry.
So good.
Robert Arias, Park Avenue District Advisory Committee member and evileye.com community news blogger. Thank you.
Robert Grins, Bike East Bay. Corey Chung with MPA. I'm here to potentially talk about a project that is coming up for development or redevelopment actually in East Bay Bridge.
Mike Roberts, Public Works.
I feel a little uncomfortable doing that to the people that are here.
Well, that's going
Well, I mean,
to.
if they don't want,
If they want to introduce themselves.
what if they don't
fine.
want to? And then that's a big
It's-
Well, then they can be
It's
quiet if they want.
voluntary.
Yeah, but
Okay,
This is not on our agenda, this
No,
is
it's not.
here. So, do we have any public comment for items that are not on our agenda? Probably be me.
That would be
you.
So a very brief overview. I recognize a few of you from Bike to Work days and so forth, but City Car Share is a nonprofit based in San Francisco. We try to provide innovative mobility options and encourage ourselves as sort of a fourth option of transport behind public transit, such as the Emeryville round, BART, walking, and cycling. We're now at 66th and Hollis at the Cliff Bar building right by the train tracks. So this is our first technical pod, which stands for Point of Departure in Emeryville. So we're exploring membership at the Chamber of Commerce, as well as to the city of Emeryville to network with local businesses, residents of Emeryville, and ideally partner with the city to have a space here in front of Town Hall as we have had in San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley for the past 5 or 10 years. I'll keep it very brief, and I'm happy to answer questions after we talk tonight.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And Will, since I mentioned it, since it's not on the agenda, we wouldn't be having like the Q&A or the
Okay.
discussion, but if anybody wanted to put it on the agenda for a future meeting to talk about some of the things you mentioned, parking space, whatever, that would be up to the BPAC.
Great, and I'd be happy to come back and present myself, or we could have other executives from the city talking about that, from as light as, here's a promotion code for $30 driving credit, all the way up to some of the statistics that we've seen of millions of tons of CO2 being reduced as folks share vehicles, and our individual goals focused on the Bay Area to take about 20,000 cars off the road by 2020 and have half of our fleet at least alternative fuels by 2015, which we've already accomplished.
You could also go to the Transportation Committee, and you can also be on their agenda, or you can go and speak at public comment. And they actually can make decisions. We make recommendations to the Traffic Committee, the Transportation, thank you.
So I've heard the TMA, like the Transit
No,
Management
the
System.
TMA is the Emeryville, the Transportation Committee is it's 2 city council members and staff members who hear anything that has anything to do with transportation in Emeryville, and they talk about it and they make decisions amongst themselves, and then they make recommendations to the city council at large. So for example, if you wanted a parking space, Chief of Police would weigh in on it, and Jennifer and Nora were the 2 city council members who are on the Transportation Committee would weigh in on it, and they would then make a recommendation to the city council as to whether or not they have.
Maybe I'll get their contact info from you.
Okay,
Okay, Madam Vice Chair, may I say something?
sure.
Okay, I would just propose that we put him on the next agenda and allow his presentation. Welcome it.
Thank you.
Yeah, can we do that? I would second that. I would love to have more time to do that. Great.
do you guys wanna vote or just by, acclamation?
I think we should put something on there next.
Well, the chair said it, so there we go.
There we go. No objection.
I'm in favor.
You don't get a vote.
Never mind.
Okay, so, are we gonna change the agenda around at all, anyone? Any reasons to have something put earlier than another item?
Do we want to, does anyone need to leave, or do we want to move to the East Bay Bridge Center?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Is that good for you, Cory? That way not to listen to us talk about other stuff. All right, should we move into that then? Oh, yeah, sorry, I think Rob's.
There's still an opportunity to make a
Public
public comment.
comment?
It's more of an inquiry, but I figured I'd have all
If
the
it- yeah,
experts here.
if it's not everything that's on the agenda, now's the time.
Yeah. It's probably old news, but I'm just wondering if anything's being done to remedy the buffers that are on the 40th Street Powell Bridge. The paint's coming off, I don't think it's clear to all the cars that there's a protected whitened bike lane there. I rode there with to the Bay Bridge with my dad, and it's kind of harrowing, especially for an older person. And I just sat there and watched, but one by one, cars are driving in that lane because I just don't think they get it. It's just not really clear.
They're driving in the buffer?
Yeah,
And so is that which direction, both directions?
I guess that would be the westbound direction specifically. Was the one I observed. I don't know if it's
Right down by IKEA, coming down the bridge?
No, it's when you go
going
up,
toward
right?
IKEA,
Uphill or downhill?
uphill toward IKEA. Yeah.
So that's
I
easy.
think there's some
No, that's
green.
When Target's on your left, I know what you mean, I saw the
Oh,
same thing in the car, it
okay.
says you're riding
Right.
towards.
You're right.
Instead of
Bay with Target on
merging, they
your
just
left.
literally just drive in the buffer zone.
Because it looked like that was originally two westbound
Yes.
lanes that
Yes.
were reformed,
It
and
was.
as my first time going over that in a car, I sort of realized what was happening, but I see what you mean, maybe bright yellow reflective paint is what needs to be on those little knobs.
The striping is dirty and it's not discernible,
So,
really.
this is just public comment,
Yeah,
We can't do anything
That's-
about it.
right?
Well,
That's
but
right.
I think it's a good thing to bring to the attention of
Ew.
the city.
Mike noted
Let's
it.
put it on the agenda.
You want it on a future agenda?
Well, it's gonna become a bigger and bigger way to get to that Bay Bridge thing,
Yeah.
because going through Bay Street isn't just comfortable.
In fact,
I'd
I
rather
was,
put up with just that one little uphill, downhill, at least from where I go from.
I would say that the agenda item could be not just that approach, but also that approach and the other coming from the north on, just how can we make the approach better overall? And I know there's some
Just
stuff.
On the north, it's
bridge.
gonna suck.
Right, well, we have that little too, I think, but
We have
like,
some
are there other,
technical
there's some issues with the bike lanes on, what street is that, Sheldon Street there? That, where you approach if you're coming southbound, so maybe we could talk about the whole, like, how can we make the approach better? And I think there's some things we can do with paint on both ends that would make it better.
Okay, so we're not changing our agenda, right? Are we done with our public comment? I think we should. Approval of this agenda, we're gonna keep the same one, okay, our minutes.
Oh, yeah, the minutes we haven't done yet. So the minutes are there. I already heard one correction. Item 5 under action item C, Horton Street. I mistakenly typed in miles instead of trips for vehicular, it should be vehicular trips traveled below 3,000 a day. In that first sentence. Thank you, Rob. Anybody else spot anything?
So, yeah, I think that, shall we move approval?
Sure.
Have people had a chance to look at it?
Give them their 30 seconds. They're fast
Going
readers.
once, going.
Why does this say absences for next meeting and I'm listed?
Sorry, where, can you say where is it? Sorry.
Well, it says Betsy Celeste Barrows. It was actually Celeste Barrows, but somehow my name got in there
Oh,
also.
okay, sorry.
But I'm
Can you
here.
say where that is though?
At the end, it says absences for next meeting.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I will correct that.
So my name.
So a subliminal message.
Yes. If I know I would have stayed.
I wanted you to change your name.
Okay, so our first action item, Bay Street bike parking.
No, I thought we were gonna
We're
switch
gonna
on.
switch
Were we?
B and
Yeah.
A and B.
Oh, you might have
Yes, I
stepped
guess I was
out.
holding my
See what
notes.
happens when you leave the room.
We're doing the East Bay Bridge Center
Yes.
facade improvement project?
Yes.
That's that big name.
Yeah, it is.
Almost went off the line.
There we go.
All right, so,
Oops, that didn't work. Okay, so I printed out 5 copies today, so we're gonna have to share a little bit, but here we go. That didn't work at all, sorry.
Yeah.
Fire one down here.
Just
We'll
use
get-
your
we'll get 'em to the
imagination.
people.
So, this is here today because BPAC doesn't normally look at major design review projects, but it was requested to look at this once it come to the attention of BPAC that this was being revised and looked at again by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, after the initial submittal, had a lot of feedback, particularly about pedestrian bicycle infrastructure. So this is at the East Bay Bridge Shopping Center. The actual package is like 35 pages or something like that. So what I did here was take the pages that were most pertinent to bike ped issues and put them in a little simplified packet so we could focus our discussion today. So,
Can you just clarify
Mhm.
geography for me? Because I'm
Yes.
seeing Target here and then Home Depot, and that's not,
yeah, so this is, so if you look on the screen where my cursor is, Target.
it's this way.
Yep.
is that
Target,
Target?
yes, it is. Target is on the upper left-hand corner, and then where we're looking at is more towards the lower right-hand corner, next to or across the street from rather the Pack and Save. So this is where the Sports Authority is, the Starbucks is.
So that's the area we're talking about?
Yes, that's the only area we're talking about,
Okay.
is that one block, 3839 Emery. Okay, so they're gonna be having some tenant changes, which is spurring a facade improvements and changes to the center. And they're not gonna be changing the footprint of the building, anything like that. They're going to not be changing the parking area, just resurfacing, is that correct?
Just restrict.
Just restriping, pardon me. As part of this project, there's new bicycle parking required. So they're going to have 28 short-term bicycle spaces. This is listed in the lower left-hand corner of the front page, and 9 long-term parking spaces. Those 9 long-term parking spaces, those are going to be inside the new tenant spaces, so those are not part of what we're looking at today. That will be dealt with when the tenant improvements come in later, but that's what's required as part of the project.
Is that for employees? That wouldn't be for?
That's what long-term biking is geared towards for employees, that's.
So it would be
So it's-
accessible to customers?
No, it's secured, it's indoors, it's for people who are working there. That's the purpose of long-term bike parking. So I'm gonna move us to page 2. This gives you a little bit of context. We're not gonna be focusing on actual facade elements of this today, but at the top of the page, you'll see it shows the existing elevation. And then below that is the new refurbished facade, and then below that is the drive aisle in the front. So initially, at the last planning commission meeting, the applicant had proposed that to address concerns about high speeds in this area, to put in speed tables. And staff was not sure about how that would work, and the planning commission asked them to look into that. And so Corey is here, who's project manager over?
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
project manager that is working with the owner of the shopping center, and we're sort of the development and construction manager. So we've been brought into the design review process here pretty early on, and we're looking to see this project through completion. So what Sarah was saying about the speed tables was right. There was concern, I think it was from Public Works actually.
And fire emergency response.
Well, it was that speed may be a factor, right?
Oh,
That was where it
yes.
started from.
There was concern that, the initial concern was that speed was an issue here because it's very wide drive aisles.
And so their proposal to deal with that was to put in speed tables, and that was discussed at Planning Commission. And after Planning Commission, you got Fair and Pierce to look at this, is that correct?
We did, and originally, I think staff suggested bulb outs at a couple select locations. And what we did actually with this plan here, after studying with Fair and Pierce, studying a few different options, speed tables, speed humps, bulb outs, were the primary option study. We ended up actually coming up with a traffic calming measure of putting, it was sort of like putting bulb outs at every single landscape end island there. And we, currently the end islands don't have any landscaping. It's a 30-foot wide curb to curb drive aisle width. And so what we've done in our proposed redesigned landscape plan here is actually add bulb outs at every single end island. I think it's about, I don't know the dimension, but it's
Oh, I have it on the next page.
It's like I think it's a 5 foot wide. So it cuts it down to 24 feet.
It should be on this page, it just takes a second to load. There we go. So if you look on the fourth page in the upper right-hand corner, the existing drive aisle is 30 feet. The proposal here is to narrow that to 24 to help slow traffic. We'll go back to that in a second, but I'm just trying to give you some, why this is being dealt with the way it is and the history behind it, and why the Planning Commission asked for these things to be addressed. So this is the front of the facade. This is the only rendering I'm showing today just to give an idea of what pedestrian experience will be like. So this is underneath where I think it's called Civic Sales is currently, and there's a new tenant going in here. So right now you kind of walk under some awnings, and the awnings are going to be completely redone and everything, but it's going to be an open pedestrian way. In the original proposal, there were going to be some trash cans and bike parking and things in this area. And one of the requests that Planning Commission made was that this area was cleared completely to make it like a little promenade directly in front of the building. So this is an unobstructed pathway in front of the building for the entire length of the block. And correct me if I'm misspeaking about anything at any time, Corey.
So where would the bike parking go then?
So we'll get to that,
Oh.
yeah. So this is on your fourth page here, and this is just showing a little bit how the spaces are going to be changed, and just an overview all on one block of what's going on. It shows that that drive aisle is being narrowed, and that there's a lot of additional landscape. There's almost 5,000 square feet of landscape going in as part of this. And this is zooming in on the landscape plan. This is on the eastern portion of the block, close, that runs into Emery, closer to Pack and Save. And the areas that I'm hovering over here are the areas that lead to the entrances of each building. You can see that the pedestrian way is buffered by plantings, and that there's crosswalks that will be repainted and relocated where applicable along the drive aisle.
Where's Pack and Save?
Pack and Save is off the screen over here.
Across the street.
Yeah, it's across the street. So this is moving to the west portion of the block. So where I'm hovering on the lower left-hand corner is where Starbucks is. There's like a little plaza there, and there's going to be, that landscape is going to continue and buffer the corner there. And there's going to be some trash receptacles and new patio seating area out here. Moving along to page 7. This is just to kind of give you an overview that they are thinking about pedestrian experience. And this is in response to both staff and the Planning Commission about having trash, closures and such to, or that's not the proper terminology. Containers, thank you. Just, you know, to provide a cleaner, better pedestrian experience, more convenient. And then this is a bike parking section. So what they've done here, it's a little hard to see because it's small, but let's start on the left-hand side of the page. And where I'm hovering in the upper left-hand corner, this is section 1, and then they do a zoom in below. So they're going to be planting new trees just to the side of one of the main pedestrian entryways from the parking lot, and there's going to be 2 bike racks there. And you move over, and in between the main pedestrian entries for Retail A and Retail B are 4 more bike racks, so they hold 8 more bicycles.
Sarah, can, just 1 second,
Yeah.
over to the left, upper left-hand corner,
Mhm.
is that in front of the food?
Yeah, we'll get there,
businesses?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're just gonna move away. Yeah, thank you for saying that, Marcy. This is flipped from our previous view. So the left hand here is the east side, the right hand side is the west.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
See how that, yeah, I apologize for not stating that. Thank you, Marcy.
Now I can see where it's really blurry that I can see what's this.
Yeah, I apologize for this not showing up better. So then in front of the Sports Authority, which is staying, there's another space just to the side of the pedestrian entryway, and that has 5 bike parking spaces, also close to some tree coverage. And then on the westernmost part by where the food area is and the radio shack, there's 2 more bicycles parking spaces. If you're looking at the bottom of the page, these are the bicycle racks we're proposing. That we have had several discussions with staff and the applicant about types of bike racks to best meet our bike parking regulations. These ones are just over 33 inches height, which is what our PED bike plan recommends for pedestrian visibility, that the bike racks be 33 inches high. So that is consistent with that. And also, originally they were proposing some narrower models, and these ones are a little bit wider, which will support both wheels, which is also specified in our bike plans. So having the 2 bars also helps with people who have smaller or larger bikes be able to attach their bike at different points. That's the idea here. So that is the basic overview of the PED bike considerations in this situation. And basically the next steps is that this is going to Planning Commission this month. And you're actually seeing this revised plan before they are. So anything that you have to say can be included in the staff report at this point.
So I just don't think I totally understand where the
Yeah.
bike parking is. So,
Yes.
so if you're on the walkway,
Mhm.
is there gonna be an awning covering it,
Yes.
or just?
Yeah, so it's a pretty generous sidewalk section there. I think it's
Right.
25 feet from building wall to edge of curb.
Uh-huh.
And
correct.
essentially, there's about, I want to say, 10 feet of that is your, I don't know if there's a section there, Sarah.
Yeah.
I think it's like 10 and 15 is the breakdown, where 10 feet is covered to that steel frame structure.
So if you were walking in the rain, you would be out of the rain.
Correct.
Walk, and then the other 15 feet is not covered.
Right, and that's where we're putting most of this buffer zone of landscape as well as the bike racks.
Okay, so I will say, as a bicyclist who has biked and parked over here many times, because I really appreciate the bike parking by Office Max right now, that I really like it when I can park out of the rain. That makes a huge difference to me on a rainy day.
Unlike packing safe.
Well, I never go to Pack and
It's
Save.
in the rain.
Is it? Yeah, well, almost everywhere it is, and that was one of the things I really loved about this particular mall, is that the bike parking, and some of it, there would be gaps in coverage, and that's exactly where the bike racks were, and I'm like, oh, if it was 5 feet that way. So I on the 25-foot sidewalk, I wonder if, I mean, I understand probably people want to walk out of the rain as well, but I wonder if there's room for bike parking that would be out of the rain.
Right, so one of the main things the planning commission said when they first reviewed this is that was where the bike parking was originally located, is that
Yeah.
it really chopped up, because you only have about 9 feet of space underneath where the canopies are,
Uh-huh.
10 feet at most.
Mhm.
So if you put like a 6-foot long area for the bike parking, then you only have a 3 or 4 foot wide space
Mhm.
for pedestrians.
Mhm.
So they really wanted that area clear to actually have a promenade kind of feel. So considering the planning commission has already said that, do you have any suggestions for how to address that?
Well, it sounds like it's just like a dead in the water, but I'm sad that planning commission, you know, I would love for it to go back to planning commission with a comment that covered bike parking is a huge asset. That I think they weren't, you know, I understand that they want a good pedestrian experience, and I'm all for that, but I think that was something that they didn't take into consideration. And I know it doesn't rain here, it's not like we're in Portland, but.
What would be wrong with having a canopy like, you know, there's a new one up in Berkeley, Solano and Toulouse, there's a nice bike parking space, there's a nice canopy
Yeah,
over there.
yeah.
I thought it was a bike,
A bus
bus
stop.
shelter when it
Yeah.
started.
Oh.
That's what it looks
They
like.
have those in several areas in North Berkeley. They have one near the original Pizza Pine and Shattuck area, there's one of those. They're doing them in North Berkeley and Long Shattuck.
That's right, that's checking on it.
If anybody needs information on those, we can get it.
That would be very good.
How about that for a suggestion? Brian?
Okay, are you finished? Okay, I want to change the subject, but staying on this shopping mall, away from these bike racks, to a pedestrian item here.
Well, I'm sorry, Brian, I did have one more comment
Go
about
ahead.
bike racks, so.
Go ahead, so
we
I'm
can just be done with it.
because I'm talking about pedestrians.
The other thing that I wanted to say about bike racks is that I think it's really, really important to put bike racks. It's not like car parking. The bike racks should be as close to the entryways, the doorways, partly for eyes, because there's bike theft is such a huge issue. So I'm concerned about putting a bunch of bike racks in between A and B as opposed to a smaller number right next to each one. I think that would be for visibility. I don't know what the landscaping is going to be like, but I would be concerned about visibility. I don't, maybe that won't be an issue. I can't quite visualize it. But I just want to say that the best way to get bike parking used is to put a couple of spots next to each entryway.
Right, and that is, I hear what you're saying about it could be in closer proximity to the doors.
Yeah.
But that is why it's scattered throughout the, like on this page we have 2 here.
But with bike parking, proximity means like 5 feet. It
Right.
doesn't mean 20.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I'm just explaining to you why in this context. So they
Sure, they didn't put it all at one end of the block or something.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But yes, I hear what
If
you're
there's
saying.
huge spaces between the entryways, which there are in this mall, and the bike parking is right in between the two, I think that's less useful than if you have spots that are right next to each entryway.
I agree with you.
There's only 2 by the 4 little stores.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those are
Those are the ones that are gonna have the cyclists.
Yeah.
Starbucks.
By the which store?
By the
Starbucks,
little
Radio Shack.
stores, by the, yeah. My guess, Corey, was that done to increase the amount of landscaping in that area?
Yeah, because we're sort of converting that area into a more, call it pedestrian-friendly dining patio. Right now, I think the bike racks currently are just in the corner of Sports Authority there. There's a ribbon rack there that's probably 4 long or so. And we've kind of shifted that down towards Sports Authority a little further and added 2 adjacent to the dining patio. And so we sort of spaced it out, I think, in a manner that it's, I guess we were looking at what was existing as well and trying to replace that. And,
Well, I
we
think
could
what's
certainly-
existing isn't optimal. It's good, but it's not optimal because it's between.
So you like to see the bike parking tilt a little bit more towards the smaller retail?
Well, just toward the retail entries, just period.
Okay, but in terms of your
Yeah, someone
concerns
else was
about.
saying-
Yeah, I would
and
more towards the
yeah.
smaller business.
More apt to bike to a coffee shop in Taco Bell than to go buy, a lot of workout gear at Sports Authority.
That's where you get my
From the
bike
car
rack.
trip.
Not
Although,
necessarily.
yeah, Sports Authority, I think, should have their bike parks.
So if the 2 spots are taking it, 7 o'clock in the morning in front of the Starbucks or whatever, and you show up, you're gonna park at Sports Authority, which isn't gonna open for like another 2 hours.
Right.
Like
Right.
a ways down, you're not gonna see your bike while you're in there.
Yeah.
One thing that we did also consider is kind of if you weren't like to smaller food tenants or food, so here, you would, we have a landscape buffer now that is kind of, call it, I'll go back to that, bisecting the drive aisle now from the sidewalk there. And we wanted to preserve that. We want to preserve all that green there that you see. I think that's a positive thing. So it's sort of we've got a lot of things squished into that one little zone there. So that's another reason almost why we have only 2 bike racks there. We've got pedestrian crosswalks with ADA ramps. We've got a lot of green buffer zone there. And we've got 3 or 4 new trees.
I guess I just wonder, it seems like a disservice to your tenants, to the tenants there to have so little bike parking next to such high traffic areas. It seems to me like I would love us if bike parking was considered an amenity as opposed to, they're forcing us to do this, so we'll just do it. But I think this is an amenity for the building. I go to Office Max instead of And that is specifically a reason that I do that. So I think it's an amenity, and I think that will become more and more true as more people switch to bicycling. So how can you position yourself to have great bike parking, so someone goes on a bike and has a great experience and says, I'm gonna take my business back there, I'm gonna go to that Starbucks, I'm gonna go to that, whatever the other businesses are. And I think narrowing the drive aisles will help with that, because it will make you feel safer on the bike going down there. But I don't know, bike racks don't take up that much space, it seems like.
Well, I mean, is there a chance of putting more around that, up around that corner? And do you guys have any experience with doing anything that's covered?
I haven't seen or used the covered ones, personally, or if there's
They're pretty nice.
It sounds like it's a shade or some, it's a
They're
structural.
basically just a big shade, yeah.
It's a trellis or some type of a structural.
It's,
I can send you an example if you like.
it's, yeah, it's a fairly substantial.
Because, 10 years from now, you'll be like, oh gosh, I should put on more bike parking.
So we call
If you
it,
look at the exponential difference in how many people have been riding around here. Someone had their hands up.
Okay, you wanna talk about bike racks?
Yeah.
Because I wanna talk about pedestrian issue here.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
I don't know that we always have to have all these bike racks fixed, can we have a portable bike rack? I mean, they're not that difficult. Maybe you can have a few portable racks, and as business needed more bike parking, you could add them. So you could make provision for them and not have them there, but I don't think it'd be that difficult to create a heavy weight that you could move from one part of the center to the other. Or like the city should do at the marina, there's no bike parking there, so if you had some portable racks that you could put in place when they're needed, I think that would be very useful. So, something to look at.
and I had a couple of questions. I was wondering about bike racks being parallel to the building. I didn't know if that was looked at or how many would fit. If it was, so it wouldn't stick out into the walkway, but the bikes could park parallel. So did you guys look at that? Did Fair and Piers look at that?
Not Fair and Piers, but I believe our architects did explore that, and it just from an efficiency standpoint, you get more per.
Yeah, you can only
linear
fit
foot.
so many, but at least you could fit a few. And you wouldn't have to have as many covered. And then the other thing is on the corner where the smaller businesses, the coffee shop is, you mentioned putting in new trees, and maybe with one tree eliminated, you could put in a couple more wraps. Just a thought. Since you're asking for suggestions.
There's also bike
I know.
parking.
Well, they're not
that has a
there yet.
smaller footprint, like in front of Hot Italians, there's one rack where you roll your bike up. So instead of being this long, you're up like this, so it's less, it's not extruding into the. The covered thing is just a really nice amenity that really appealed to me. If it's not in the covered area, okay, but because you have that covered awning, which a lot of places don't, I just personally have loved being able to park my bike there on a rainy day. That's a huge.
I think it makes more of a statement that you're inviting cyclists, you're encouraging cycling, and rather than just, putting them there just without thinking about.
Because you were told
the
they're
experience. Yeah.
Are there any potential downsides to having them located under that canopy area, and that you might be potentially increasing pet bike conflicts by bringing the bikes directly into, a lot of people don't dismount. A lot of people just ride right up in, and you're going right in front of a busy, potentially store entry exit way. Would having a covered canopy separate from that be safer for everybody? Just a thought.
It could be. When I've been there haven't been a whole lot of pets or bikes around, so hopefully part of this is because there'll be more traffic than bike traffic. I think either one's fine. I think having the bikes closer to the doors and not obscured by landscaping so that there's eyes on them is the most important thing for security. I'm not going to park my bike in a corner that's behind something because I'll be scared that it's too easy to steal.
Totally agree with
This
that,
might be
totally
good for
agree
bringing
with that.
visibility, like bike parking's here. Like you can put a bike in, I don't know what they look like, but.
Like space, like on board.
Are we ready to move to pedestrian?
Okay, to change the subject to the pedestrian experience here. Back in 1993, when this mall was being proposed, there was an environmental impact report written for the mall. And they the company that did the report noted an environmental impact, and that would be the glare from the racks of parked cars in these massive parking lots. And that was determined to be a significant impact that could be mitigated by the planting of trees. And so they calculated to have it be sufficiently mitigated, there would have to be 25% so-called canopy coverage when viewed from above 10 years after the mall is built. In other words, 25% of the acreage would be tree, 75 would be asphalt.
Tree canopy.
That's right. It's called canopy coverage, 25%. That's in the EIR, it's in these offices up here for this project. What happened was, really quick, I'll try to make this fast. The developer didn't want to have to pay the money to plant all those trees, and so he got 3 planning commissioners back in 1993 to sign off to not make them have to do that. And so we ended up with about 2% canopy coverage, which is there now at the shopping mall. 2%, but the environmental impacts report says it has to be 25%. It was determined to be legal because 3 planning commissioners signed off on it. It was done in a not legal manner because there wasn't a duly notified meeting, and that part was illegal, but at least it was signed off in a legal manner. And so that's always stuck on my craw, because I don't think it's a right way to conduct public business. And there's still this document out there that says that we are being negatively impacted by this shopping mall. So I want the trees there. Even now, this many years later, I want this environmental impact, negative impact, to be mitigated. So I guess this is a question for Sarah and Marcy and Michael. I would like to find out.
Anything to do with bicycle or pedestrian?
Yeah, this is a pedestrian experience. Yeah, yeah. That's in the
Walking
EIR.
through there, okay.
Yeah, in the EIR said it was negative pedestrian experience. The glare from the park banks of parked cars. So to the 3 city employees here, I would like to know: is there any way we can leverage this desire to do this by the tenants or whomever is doing it,
It's the developer.
the developer, and try to get our required trees? Now, I know that there are, in some city halls, there are ensconced rules that say after a certain percentage or amount of work, then it kicks into new paradigms of city planning requirements. So perhaps we could investigate something along those lines to kind of force this developer to now, this many years later, deliver the required number of trees.
So you mean the whole parking lot? They have to do the entire
Sure.
50
Well,
acre parking
as
lot?
much as we could legally require them to do.
So you would hold this up and ask them to do 25% of the entire parking
Well,
lot?
as much as legally, yeah, if we had a legal leg to stand on that, the
10
answer
years
is yes
after
to
you
that.
plant the trees.
That's right. And
The
so-
idea is that you would have some coverage over this stuff.
Yeah, but I'm not asking the city to we have the United States Constitution, you have the California Constitution, those can't be broken, but,
This is a great project, it's a great change, it's moving in the right direction.
well, hold on, you're interrupting here, hold on. So I would like this to be investigated, because it's not my opinion that we need more trees, although it is my opinion, but that doesn't matter, doesn't count. What does count is that we know that there is an environmental negative impact right now. We know that.
Would you like to make a motion?
Well, is
Yes,
this a
I would like to
conversation
make a
with the planning commission?
Well, right,
So I would like to find out if there's any way we could, since this work is now being done, can we use that? And I don't even know the exact parlance or
Right.
jargon, city planning parlance to use to describe how this could be done, but I
Well, how-
know things like this have been done in the past.
would you like me to?
Yes, yeah, I would.
I'll respond to that. So
Right.
there has to be a nexus, right, between the amount of work being done
Yeah.
and what you can require from an
Yeah.
applicant. And because this is just a facade and they're not changing, like, the footprint, they're not adding anything, they're not increasing the parking demand, they're not doing anything of that nature, there's not really a way for us to say you have to do that. There has to be the nexus, right?
Are you certain?
We talked about it in staff, absolutely, and
Talk about the
we
25% canopy coverage
did talk
specifically?
about these trees and not having been planted before. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't think we
alright.
necessarily, I don't remember specifically, but absolutely, we talked about the trees and improving the parking. I think everybody knows that it'd be nicer to have improved parking
It's not
space
that it's
there.
nicer, it's required, or else we have a negative impact.
Right,
Yeah.
so I think everybody's aware of that there has to be something to trigger that that's significant enough, and it being a design review is not, unfortunately, that trigger. And I believe that might have also come at the planning commission, I'm not sure. But that's definitely been discussed, and I don't believe that there's that level to enforce that. But yeah, I don't think you're alone in wanting to see that done and knowing that there's a need to rectify the situation.
Well, since we're the Bicycle-Pedestrian Committee, would you want like a motion that says that you would like them to encourage? No matter what, I mean.
So-
Well, I mean, like, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So, because this is going to planning commission, it's not going to the transportation committee or anything like that. What I can do is I'll put these notes in the staff report and have it included as part of the discussion of the staff report. So I'm not sure if making a motion,
That we're encouraging.
That-
Wait,
yeah.
hold on, I haven't decided that's what I'm.
Greening of our
So you're saying we don't have to make
Shopping.
a motion, that just all of our comments and feedback?
But hold on, if I could just finish my thought here. I appreciate what you said, but
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that you're entirely right. I mean,
Okay.
you might be right, but is there any way to, what I'm trying to do now is I'm offering a little bit of pushback here. Is there any way to expand this? Like, in other words, how, because you didn't say you were, there seemed to be some question in your mind, or?
I don't remember the specific details, because it's been a while, quite frankly, since we talked about that. I don't remember when this originally came, but it was several months ago, so.
Because I'd hate to lose this opportunity, because we probably won't get another one in our lifetimes, to finally get our trees.
Okay, Brian, you know, by your own admission, the planning commission did not require the 25% capacity canopy, right?
But it was
So
done, it was done.
So it's not,
illegally
it's
done.
not
Well,
illegal.
that's.
That decision was
That's
made,
your
okay?
opinion that it was done illegally.
And
No, it was a finding.
just because the EIR says,
You're by this- by the- by-
wait,
hold on,
you're
by Charlie-
interrupting me
by
now,
Charlie
right?
Fry.
You're interrupting me, right?
He doesn't determine illegality.
Yeah, he did a report.
So if the EIR says that they should have 25% and it's not required, then it's over with. It wasn't required. Just because the EIR said it doesn't make it a requirement. The
Sure,
city
that's
did
true.
not require it of
That's
them, so we
true.
cannot go back there and try to make them do something.
No,
that
we
wasn't
could,
done.
ask him, we can ask
No,
somebody,
no,
we
absolutely.
can encourage somebody.
Ken, you don't know that.
No, to redoing
Ken, you
things.
can't say you cannot,
In the long run,
you
it
can make
makes
a
a lot
new
of sense.
requirement,
So-
possibly, that's what I'm asking about, with a new scope of work. Okay, anyway. So this is what I would like to have investigated
So you'd like me to
with
verify
a
it?
little more rigor. you know.
Okay, so I can verify that, yes.
Yeah, if you could verify that, maybe get a couple of second opinions, call another, I don't know want to tell you how to do your job.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I can look into that. I want to make sure that we're not going over time and that everybody who's wanted to say something about this topic has had the opportunity. Is there any other feedback about this that, or questions or concerns that you'd like to ask the applicant this is here? Or?
One last thing.
I'd like to make a motion.
Follow up. So how do we get, what happens to what I requested specifically? How are we gonna find out what happened?
Right, so I will need to look into that and get back to you.
The planning commission meeting, which
Yes.
you can attend, is when?
On the 24th. So this will be at the planning commission meeting, so you can absolutely come to that, or watch it on TV, or contact your commissioners, you know, all of the above. So,
Well, I'd like to be self-starting if possible. In other words, not require me to come to a meeting necessarily.
it is part of the
Well,
public
that's
process.
what's gonna
Well, I mean,
happen then.
Well, I mean, you can contact the planning commissioners, right?
So your point about the procedure is that our, if we
What
made a
we're
motion.
considering here is
Well,
just
we made a
the
motion,
facade.
we would go to transportation, but transportation is the one that's considering it, so there's no
Right.
point in us.
What I'm
having a
doing here
motion.
is, normally, you don't look at design review things. And this is already going to planning commission. They've already reviewed it, they asked for some changes to be made. Your subcommittee requested to look at those changes, which have been made before it went to planning commission. So I can include your comments in the staff report.
Can I make a comment about
the speed table issue. I know the city of Emeryville hates speed tables, and I was riding my bike in Berkeley the other day on a side street that had lots of big speed bumps, and I thought, I know I've seen emergency vehicles there. So it is possible for, I don't know why Emeryville is so resistant, but someone was talking to me about how even paint on the ground slows traffic. And I think slowing traffic, I think narrowing the aisle and adding landscaping are great ways to slow traffic. But I would love to see speed tables, not speed at humps, but speed tables are pretty, you know.
So that's
They're
exactly what
pretty
they
easy to deal
proposed,
with.
that's exactly what the applicant proposed originally, and staff's concern with that at the time that it went to planning commission is we didn't have enough details about those speed tables. That we didn't know what the grade would be, that we didn't know how wide they would be, we didn't know what the drainage would be. So part of the request was not just like get rid of speed tables, it was like, what's the feasibility of this? And then when they looked at with their peers, my understanding is the most feasible option was to do the narrowing, not the speed tables. Because there's lots of technical challenges aside from just raising the pavement.
Okay, well, then I would suggest as an alternative is to do beyond the white striping, like if there could be something that's more visible than that. And it from a paint perspective, that doesn't have to be raised, but that, someone was just telling me that painting on the pavement, like having pavement that looks different really helps slow traffic and alert them to that.
Well, I was in a shopping mall in Marin the other day, and they have big crosswalks, and then they have a tiny raised, it's like all brick though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it makes a difference, and people seem to respect it pretty well.
To clarify, do you mean like you're having a raised pedestrian crossing? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I mean, it's probably only on this one.
Because in this situation, that was also something that was looked at here, that's also not feasible because of the way that there basically is no.
It's a parking lot.
Right, it's a parking lot, you're going down to a parking lot, so you'd have, yeah, it's just not really an option in this situation. So those, both of those things were explored.
And then I have a question,
Yeah.
because the word bulb out was used,
Yeah.
and I see 24 feet in landscaping, but are there actual bulbs in and out?
Those, so I think bulb out is probably not the technically correct term, but it's using these planters. Originally, they were being called bulb outs because they weren't lining the entire length of the drive aisle. They were just suggested as a couple, as kind of like pinch points.
Now it's a big narrowing.
Now it's
Sort of.
narrowing the whole thing, so the language is not 100% accurate, so I apologize for the confusion there.
Still like to make a motion
Okay,
that we encourage them to put additional parking near the smaller retail.
bye.
Bike parking, yeah.
I would second that.
Increase,
Not that I would
the-
ever step inside of Starbucks, but
increase the capacity for bicycles.
especially near the smaller.
Because right now it's just for four.
So by small retail.
Well, can I make a friendly amendment to that we also encourage them to place the bike parking near the entrances to all of the retails, as near as possible?
Investigate putting them nearer to the front doors.
Yeah, that
Would that be
we,
a way to do it?
more by the small retail and put them nearer to the front
Okay,
doors.
so then the motion says we'd like to see additional parking near the small retail and whenever possible, the bike parking be closer to the front doors.
Are we asking for more bike spaces or just allocating them?
Well, they're gonna need more bike parking eventually.
Yeah. I don't know, this might be enough to start with.
We wanna give them a number, one, 6.
6 more?
6 more?
Well, can I just ask what you're, so that there's a base behind it, like why 6?
Well, they're not throwing a number up, because I thought that having these, 5 or even these larger racks near the, kind of the more regional places didn't seem to make as much sense as having it near the smaller stuff.
I also have to say that I think 9 secure spots per employee seems very low to me.
It's based on the square footage, our calculations, based on our
Their
our
requirements and
regulations.
square footage.
Right, but I want to say I think Emeryville's requirements are not enough.
Can I mention that
That's just my
We'll
comment.
have to do their own plan.
procedural thing? I heard a motion,
Yes.
I heard a friendly amendment, I didn't hear a
I
second.
seconded it.
You
I
seconded.
seconded, and then friendly amendment.
You didn't
which-
second it.
I did, nobody
Okay.
heard me, but I said I would second.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you
we're just-
seconded
I
You're whispering to
did, I
yourself.
swear I did.
Okay, so
But
second,
somebody has to make a motion for including the friendly
Right.
amendment.
Well,
right?
yeah, well, the first person has to accept it, right?
Do you accept it?
Well, we were just rethinking what it was.
Okay, so what's the final motion? Do you wanna make it yourself?
Yeah,
or-
okay.
Sure, then we have more parking near the smaller spaces, the Radio Shack, the
Uh-huh.
Starbucks. And that whenever, if possible, the bicycle parking be closer to the front doors of the businesses themselves.
Yes.
I don't like the word if possible, I think they should be next to the doors.
Okay, taking the if possible out.
Yeah, yeah, we're making a motion, we're just asking to do it, so we might as well say we're asking.
Close and additional spaces or same or?
I wasn't clear if you were wanting additional spaces or if you were just wanting the spaces reallocated towards the smaller.
So the required is only 28, and so that's what they're doing?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
So well, why shouldn't it be more than that?
Well, you wanna say at least 30, put 2 more spots in by the retailers,
Two more.
I know, that's
Come on, let's reach.
Increase overall number of spaces to,
I think having 6 more bike parking slots
So
and putting them all
34?
near the small the small shops
Yeah, well,
would
yeah,
not be
Yeah.
untoward.
6 more near the small retail.
And also, I mean, I think stating that, you know, having them in a space where there are people sitting outside and there are more eyes on those areas to make sure that which would increase the safety, I think, of those bicycle
Right.
spots.
Yeah, it's
Do
where the
we-
bike thieves get their coffee.
so for final motion, let's see if I have this right, more parking near smaller businesses.
Yeah, an additional, should we say an additional 4 to 6 or an additional 6?
Near the outside seating, so that,
Yeah.
So additional 4 to 6 spaces?
because I think there's been some discussion
Yeah, we're
at
saying
the,
six.
Additional
Because
6 spaces, so right
We
now
say
there's
4,
gonna be
then that's
2.
all we got.
Right, so right now there's capacity for 4, you're saying you want 2 more racks so that you have a total of 8? Capacity for a total of 8?
Wait, no, if you have
3
2
more racks
you
get you a total of 10,
Yeah.
right? If there's two bikes per rack, is that what
Right.
they're in?
So
they're
there's 2
assuming?
racks there now,
Right.
so we're asking for 3 more racks. which
Okay,
is
3 more
6
racks.
3 more
10.
racks for capacity,
Does that
so 6
sound right?
additional bikes.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay, and then
And then to
And-
move the other racks closer to the doors,
move some of the already allocated racks closer to the doors.
because right now they're in between.
Okay.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, this is kind of, I should ask this before, but, so the bike parking will be between the walkway and the street? Right, it'll be where the landscaping is, so is there a danger of the bikes being hit by cars? Is that, I don't know if that's something that happens there, maybe with the slower speed, that's not a concern? Is that, I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't look like, it looks
If-
like you've got plantings.
You gotta set-
So yeah, it's behind the plantings,
It's behind the planting. so
and then
it'll
over
be
here
somewhat
it's stepped
protected.
back from the plantings.
Okay, so it's not right at the curb,
No.
okay.
So, is
Okay,
there,
now you
Bike
can
rack.
second my motion.
Okay, I second.
Okay.
I think at the planning commission, they had talked a little bit about, that they had planned at one point, maybe I have this wrong, they talked at one point of having the bike parking to the side of, I guess Starbucks. And that the planning commission, they had said that that wasn't very safe to have because it's really out of anybody's eyesight. And so I think that, you want to make sure that it is in eyesight.
we over time on
Yes, we
Of course we're over
Did,
time.
was there a vote?
And this would be, I just want to make
So,
sure.
yeah, let's call, we're gonna call the roll on this item, I think.
we're just.
Well, I was interrupting.
Oh, I just
So
wanted,
that's
so this
the
would, so you would rather have, I just want to clarify, right? That you would rather have bike parking in these locations and highly visible than additional landscaping, is that correct?
Why can't we have both?
Yeah.
Because there's only so much space.
Well, there still would be additional
Put some
landscaping,
bikes
just
under-
not as
under
much,
trees.
right?
Okay.
Right, so you want no compromising whatsoever, landscaping, bike racks, you want it all. Hovercraft.
Jetpacks.
Hovercraft way better than jet.
Balloon travel,
But
lighter
the
than air
carbon
travel, all
footprint.
that stuff.
Okay. All right, sorry.
Okay, so we call the roll. All in favor of the motion?
Okay, so
You
it's
don't get to
unanimous.
1, 2, 3, that's a
all right.
6-0.
All right, thank you all.
We're gonna move to our
Thank you
next.
for coming.
Are we moving to our next item, which is the Bay Street bike parking?
Yes.
All right.
And we'll be right back. Oop, that didn't work, hold on.
Oh, so. All right. photos of her. Let's see. I'm not used to this laptop that I'm on there now. Okay.
No, Bay Street, like that.
So, Betsy was kind enough to bring these, which I think are updated versions of one that I took a picture of when I was there. And this all got started by Rob, who didn't, who I think wanted to be introduced, but I'm not sure.
I'll pass
And-
this around. This was what was left on my bike. Just kind of initiated the whole.
And it seems to me that that one there that Rob passed around and this one here are more outdated. I think this one that Betsy got at Bay Street is more updated with regard to where there are bike racks. So one of the things,
Where did you get this?
I actually talked to the woman who is the general manager of Bay Street, and she referred me to somebody at Bay Street, and she had all this stuff ready for me.
Alice, did you talk to
I talked to
Alice?
Alice Rose, and I talked to her, she was at the TMA meeting, she's on the board of directors of the TMA.
Oh, right.
And so I saw her there and I asked her if she minded, before the meeting started, if she
Yeah.
minded talking about Bay Street for a
Great.
minute. And so I talked to her about it, and she gave me the name of somebody at Bay Street, and she made a picture of the newest things, which are actually, this is the one they actually tag on now, which is much bigger than the one that Rob got.
Can you pass it this way?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Can we look at it? We haven't done this.
Oh, you've got.
These are Xerox copies of it. They also made copies for us and stapled them together, which was nice.
So I think they've updated the map based on maybe just a little bit they've been hearing in the last couple weeks. So what I noticed when I was there was like several racks that I hadn't seen before. I don't know if people can recognize where this is, but it's really difficult to see. Between Ohlone Way and the theater, which is kind of where we're concentrating. Let me see if I can get this. There's like 50 spaces I figured out. So I don't know, what people think about that. I'm here providing information. There might be some things we can change. We might ask them to make a better map, and especially to put one up when they post it as a monument there. This, I think people recognize, this is what's by the theater, by Barnes and Noble. Another one that's a little further east. Banana, you can kind of see what he said. This is over by Ohlone Way.
So what are we trying to do?
Well, good question. Rob brought this up because going to the movies earned him a little notice on his bike for not using a rack, and there weren't any racks available that he could see. So we started having a conversation about this with a few of us in email, and Betsy, Tom, we wanted to put it on the agenda so we could see if there's something that we want to do, and if changes, people want to make changes.
So were you
Okay,
referring
I'd love to
the
make some
parking
I'd love to continue the
I
comments.
locked
but
my bike to a fence.
So here's the chair right here.
This one is really something that, touches my heart. The city allows them to collect all the money from the parking meters there, right? And when this was before the council, I wanted them to put in check-in bike parking, because we're allowing them to have all this revenue. And all they would need to do is have one security guard and a corral, and we could have check-in bike parking. So that's maybe.
Inside the parking garage somewhere.
Well, yeah, somewhere
There's tons
handy,
of space in it.
somewhere handy, but worthwhile, because I don't like leaving my bike, over there, and it's not safe. And so that's one leverage that we may have on it. I just want to bring that up. I had the same experience as Rob. I tied my bike to a post there that wasn't the official bike rack, and they were all upset about it. And I don't see why you should be upset about it. It's not hurting anybody, it's just like any other street. But because it's a private street, right, do they have the right to not allow you to tie your bike to a pole or post. So that's a legal question I think we need to look at. But I agree with you, Rob, you know, why shouldn't you be able to use what's available? And if they don't like us using what's available, then provide more of what of bike parking.
Oh, they take your, this is when they take your bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Well, then somebody should take them to small claims court over
Well, you know what, I think there's a good
See what
question,
happens
is like,
after that.
on private property, are you allowed, you know, it's private, but it's also, there's a public right of way. You know, it's not like somebody's, it's not like you park
And
in
it's
my
not
front
posted, I mean,
yard.
does each one of these little posts say, warning, do not
No.
attach your bicycle to here, we will take it?
I know that, and actually, I've had the experience, I had that experience somewhere else recently too, where was I, not Bay Street, where I started to lock my bike somewhere and the security guard came running over and said, no, you can't do that. And I think the security guards will come to you if you park at a meter, I think I've had that experience, and tell you not to do it. But I think that's wrong, there's 50 more bike parking spaces.
So if I'm not mistaken, the street belongs to the city and the sidewalk is theirs, is that right?
Right.
So, I don't, just,
And so they're collecting the
FYI.
parking revenue from city street?
Yeah, right, that was one of those deals.
Yeah, I think they shouldn't. Sir?
Well, yeah.
So it seems like one of those situations where the rule is in place, probably for a good reason, because they don't want to have, you know, bikes locked in unauthorized locations blocking the right of way, especially, you know, accessibility ramps and things like that. But it's also one of those situations where people get kind of obsessive about the rules, and don't start using like their brains and nuance in order to figure out whether something is, you know, a good application, you know, to put this map down on for. So this is something that we deal with the UC Berkeley police, and they actually are pretty even-handed about it. They have a similar rule on campus that if your bike is locked in an unauthorized location, it's actually blocking the public right away or a ramp or something like that to prevent
Well, they have
access.
little signs on them though.
Right, then they do take it and they actually take your bike. But I've never heard of a situation where they actually gave a ticket for somebody who parked it in a unauthorized location where it wasn't blocking the right of way. So, I mean, this kind of seems silly. I mean, these bicyclists are people who want to shop at the mall. If they can't train their security guards to realize the difference between a bicycle that is blocking the right of way and one that's not, I think that's a training issue. Leave it at that. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal otherwise, except for the fact that people are obsessing about the rules.
One of the things that they did mention was that they're really interested in safety issues and liability issues, and that when they try to place the bike racks, they try to do it in places where people aren't going to trip on them or hurt themselves in some other way. And that they're also very interested in encouraging bicyclists to come to there, and it's so that people had ideas about places where they thought there were, that they'd be good places to put additional bike racks, that they would,
Inside the
that they would
garage.
welcome the input. I don't know if they'll do
Really?
anything. Well, that's what they said.
Well, I have to say, they have added a lot of new bike racks near the theater, which is good, but they also took away one of the covered indoor racks, sort of the secret rack that an employee told me about, that's down on your way to the parking lot underneath where they were like just a space for 4 bikes there, but last time I went there, it was gone. And they also have, it's not on this map, but they did used to have a big wave rack inside the parking garage right up here, which I only knew about because they'd taken away a bunch of parking and I couldn't find a place to park, and I asked the security guard and they told me. But there's no other way you would know, and it's nice, it's inside, and if it's raining, it's a nice place to
I
park.
hadn't realized that they had as many as they do until I got this little map and then noticed walking along that they do. It's partially because they do tuck them into places that are sort of out of the way, so that that they're not, so pedestrians won't trip on them or.
Yeah, but out of the way is a problem because it's not visible. And how does tying a bicycle to a parking meter, how does that block the pedestrian right away? I don't see how that does that.
And they also made when I said that somebody was ticketed, she said several times, we do not ticket anybody, we never ticket anybody. These are really just notifications to people the one that Rob had, I was really surprised it doesn't show anything about where the bike racks are. What she said was that they put these things on so that people can see where the racks are.
But did they take
But the
your
one
bike?
you had
No,
didn't
no,
show
no,
anything
yeah.
at all.
Yeah, and I, almost had regret for making such a big deal out of afterward, because there is more bike parking than I thought. It just was not clearly annotated. as
Yeah,
you
because I
can
said
see.
to her, I thought there were 3, and then when I look at this thing, they're scattered all about, but they're just not really
Yeah.
immediately obvious.
My biggest complaint now would be that I feel quite a few of the people that go to the mall are going there maybe to the movie theaters, and so the location of the racks isn't really central for people that go into the movie theaters. There's really just the ones in front of Barnes and Noble, and then there's a couple tucked underneath by the stairs in West Elm, so they're not
The ones
central
underneath
for
the
that.
stairs are gone.
Underneath the stairs.
Those are the ones that went away.
But if there's a pole by the store I'm going in, I wanna park it, put it right there. I don't wanna go all the way to the end of the
Well, I
road
think
or
they've
whatever.
done a better job in the last couple of years of having racks throughout, like in front of the Apple store, which they did not used to have. And they have added quite a bit of bike parking, which I give them props. I would not say they're green by any means, but I would highly dispute that.
I'd say they're green, they're taking in money.
It said that they're a certified green property. Who they're certified by, maybe
I
it's
don't
their
know.
bank, I don't know. But I
Chamber of
agree that I
Commerce.
think they should have 50 or 60 bike parking spots next to the theater, maybe in the parking garage.
Right, I
Because
mean,
that's
well,
a
that's
huge
right, maybe
destination.
there's a way to reopen that dialogue with them and
Yeah.
see if they, I mean,
I'm
things are
glad that
changing
they're open
and,
to change.
and they should be something.
I wonder if there's any way, I mean, we can't force them to do anything because they're private, but, I think civil action, threatening a boycott, giving them a bad rap among bicyclists for doing this, I think they should be asked to allow people to park at posts.
I think,
And,
if I could, Chair, say, please.
Yeah, please.
If, you could start off with just making contact with them like Betsy did, maybe write a letter, maybe a bunch of people could sign it, phone calls, emails, let them, they need to hear from the people that shop there,
Well,
right?
can I
think
say,
they're-
in the past, they have been very unwilling to meet with residents and unresponsive, and it sounds like Betsy did a great job at connecting with them.
Well, I think if
Well, it's
people.
because it's just her non-threatening demeanor.
Yeah.
And I also saw her at a place other than Bay Streets.
I think there's other things also that other people have pointed out that would be helpful. So when you're at the racks that maybe there's no space right there should be a sign right there telling you where other parking is located. It's like right around the corner, sucker, it's like right over there. Or
To have
it's
one of these
not.
permanently mounted somewhere. where
Yeah,
they can
there's only
see.
one and it's way down, what was that in front of,
Kiosk of some sort?
yeah, it's on the other side of Ohlone Way. So by the time you walk down there to see that, there might be another map that's closer, I didn't see it. But I think there's a few things they could do just to inform people about where the existing racks are. But I also think that everybody here, your friends, anybody that goes there, get together and communicate with them and let them know that there's a bunch of people that want to go there that ride bikes.
Do you have an email address or contact, Betsy, that we could get sent to us so that we know who to
I
email?
do, but I sort of hate to have it even just sent on this one.
Because it's not her fault.
Yeah, I mean.
General manager at Bay Street, you probably can get contact pretty easily.
Yeah.
Well, I know him and I'll talk to him. I know Alice too. I'll talk to her. I mean,
Well, if
I wanna be
you
able to
could
park at the pole,
circulate,
too.
Like, because I would be very happy to send an email.
okay, I'll give you that.
Like,
I'll give you
If
that.
somebody gave me an email address, I would
Yeah,
send it.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, encouraging indoor parking.
But
In
I-
the parking garage. There's
Well marked.
plenty of room.
And
I think-
honest, to what Ken said, if there's room, wouldn't even have to have a person, they could use that bike link system and put in a bike link parking, bike station in there.
What's a bike link station?
It's something where you have a cage that's locked, and the only way to access it is with a card that your ID is linked
Oh,
to that
okay.
card, so they know they have
Okay.
cameras, they know who goes in and out.
Yeah.
And then once you're in, you lock your bike to a structure, like they'll have bike racks.
So if you work on some of these things, maybe the next meeting, we can talk about it again, see if you received any response. See if it seemed like it made any difference, or if they have anything else planned. Maybe get some specific names and contact info
Yeah, I
for
mean,
people.
she said that they're all, the woman who she had referred me to, who's sort of the receptionist at Bay Street, she's the one who said that they're always looking, well, I think Alice also said it, that they're always looking for places because they are trying to encourage bicyclists to shop there. And
Something we could probably.
and that they're always looking for locations, so if we had locations in mind that we thought would be useful,
Yeah.
you know, that would be I mean, first, I think we should ask them to do whatever we think is a good thing to do, and
Maybe we could
then
suggest they
depending on
not
how
use
they-
wave racks. I mean, it could save space, you know?
Wave racks are okay. But they haven't, the new racks they're putting in are not wave racks. The new ones they've been putting
The
in.
rings,
They've been putting in the rings, yeah.
the rings they've had over at Alone Way, they've had those for a while.
And-
Then they're putting in more. And by
Yeah,
Barnes
maybe
and
they have
Noble.
put wave racks in, you're right, maybe these are new, these wave racks.
Yeah, I just think with, you know, you could have 2 inverted U's and you park the same number of bikes than having a wave rack. Would take up less pedestrian.
Sir.
If you're in contact with anyone from the mall, I'd also encourage you to bend your ear about a potential bike share pod at that location. Berkeley and Oakland are moving really fast in terms of hiring staff in order to facilitate the rollout of East Bay Bike Share, hopefully sometime next year.
That will be further on in our agenda, I
Right,
believe.
right.
It might not be, because Ann came to Washington, it's not
Oh,
good.
okay, well then it'll be on next month.
But it all ties together, and I think especially around the movie theater area, and with all the people coming and going from the new Bay Bridge path
Yeah.
would be a great location.
What, to ride up on the bridge?
Yeah.
I mean, where else would you go from Bay Street if you got a bike there?
Yeah,
You would,
that's a good
you
point.
would,
West Oakland or
yeah, because then you could leave your bike share. You wouldn't have to
Okay.
do a round trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or you would take home that sofa you bought at IKEA.
And the trailer behind your bike, and then you find out you can't get it through the front door, right?
And I also wanted to mention that the city of Oakland actually has an ordinance that says that every parking meter in the city is also a bike rack.
Really?
So, yeah, so the fact that it's an ordinance in Oakland means that there's nothing inherently, difficult about using.
Well, that would be
Do I
interesting.
hear a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So
I'll
moved.
make that motion. I move that the city of Emeryville adopt an ordinance saying that every bike rack in
That's a good idea.
Emeryville, every parking meter in Emeryville is also a bike rack
Yeah, but every parking meter in Emeryville is apparently,
at Bay Street.
Yeah.
Bay Street and on private,
Right.
and the meters themselves are on private
Yeah,
property,
they're not
right, because they're on the
Yeah, so
sidewalk.
we may not be able to, but
We could try.
I think it's a good ordinance to have, because we might have parking meters on city property in the next few years. We're moving in that direction.
The plan calls for them, so might as well do it.
Yeah, so that's my motion.
Parking, probably not meters.
Yeah, they probably have
Oh,
a
that other
ticket.
thing. You know,
Oh,
Oakland has
right.
been taking those out and putting meters back.
Where?
Like on T1 Avenue, some of the blocks, and some other, a couple other spaces. I don't know what's up with that.
Well, they chop.
Yeah, those things work so much better than parking meters.
Do they?
Yeah.
Sure, because,
You don't.
on the weekends, they're computerized that way, or the ones in Berkeley, you can, I can park by the Y at 8:30 and start my meter stuff at 9. It works out real well.
So what's the outcome with this?
I don't know. What's the
Well,
outcome?
I mean, if the city had an ordinance that every meter is also a bike parking spot,
But
and
it's
it's
private
on private property, would it apply?
No.
Well, I
If
think
they
the
said
intent,
every meter in the city,
the intent would be good though. I mean, you're making a statement about what you want to do.
I don't think we should be requesting an ordinance be written. I think we should just say this is what we want for Bay Street.
but
Every
I don't
parking
know
meter
that we
be
can
allowed.
legislate.
If you can know, but if you could start out at least by asking, what are your asks? List them in a letter, email, whatever, circulate it
Yeah,
among other
well,
people.
we're running out of time on this.
But
What should we do?
There's
Are
a
all
line
the
contact us
places
from
where
the
there's been a
Bay
problem, have they all been at meters, or were you parked at a meter?
up
Like
against
a
a
light pole or
fence.
something?
You were parked at a
In front of the
fence?
elephant bar, a metal,
There's like
A
a
metal
fence,
railing
right?
type,
Yeah.
yeah.
kind of decorative railing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a handicap.
No.
Was it for barrier for the patio? For
Yeah,
eating
the patio,
area?
exactly.
The patio barrier?
Yeah, I didn't get a picture of that, but you did. You sent your picture that showed 2 bikes, maybe one of them was yours.
Yeah.
You know what, I also want to say that what might have leverage is to email places like Elephant Bar, some of the merchants, and saying, we want to go there, but it's not very bike friendly.
I did bring that up with him, I'm
Oh,
like,
did you?
will you ask your manager to inquire with Bay Street about this, because I think it would be better for your patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Parking
places.
for their establishment,
I'm guessing that's less direct. Do we want this on the agenda next time? What do people wanna do about it?
I think it's a good information item, but I'm not, it sounds like there's a whole lot we can do other than agitate.
I'd say it was an information item, not an action.
Yeah.
Well, let's think about it and start talking with them. How
Well, I
about
think
that?
it's an information item that says, look around, and if you see places where you think they should put them, or where there'd be opportunities for them, then we should let them know that we would like to see additional spaces, and here are some spots that we recommend, and we'd appreciate it if you did it.
Marcy, can you send a contact to the BPAC members so that everybody's sending their emails or phone calls to the same place?
There, I went to the Bay Street website and it doesn't tell you who the general manager is, but it has a line contact form for your comments and feedback.
Those, yeah.
Wendell is the general manager, I know the guy.
Yeah, so if you can send that to
Yeah.
Marcy, she can send it
I'll
to us.
ask if they mind receiving email from our local friendly bike and ped concerns and
Would a nicely worded letter signed by everybody from BPAC, addressed to Bay Street,
That's a good
hold any
idea.
weight with your recommendations,
Probably not.
more plaza parking and better wayfinding?
I think as many
Seem very
ways,
responsive.
as many people can contact them, that's what I think personally would help. Phone calls, email, letter, I just think they should hear from people and not just everybody sitting here, but other people you know. Post it,
Yeah.
Put it in the evil eye.
Not yet.
I mean, people can post it on Facebook.
All right, well, it's time to put it in the evil eye.
Yeah.
But I also think that we
You're
should,
not the only
we should
person who has
approach it from the perspective of coming up with ideas and, saying we'd appreciate them do it before we start talking about,
Sure.
boycotting or anything that, because they bring in sales tax that, revenue that supports city services, so.
I think their attitude about bikes historically has been really, really antagonistic.
I'm not saying that they're.
As a bicyclist, there was a time when, I think it was Critical Mass or something, this was years ago, around Christmas time, came through Bay Street. And I don't know what they did, I think some people rode on the sidewalk or something really horrible like that. And April, my wife went down there on her bike to just see what was going on, and they refused her entrance to Bay Street because she had a bicycle. Which to me was like.
On the road, on
what-
the street?
Yeah, she was
Can't do it.
refused, yeah, they had the
They don't own
security
the
guards
streets.
had it blocked off and they said, you have a bicycle so you can't come in. They were
No.
letting other people in.
Nope.
And to me, that
Illegal.
sealed my impression of Bay
Well,
Street.
I
Now,
mean-
hopefully they've changed over
It's
time.
illegal.
Do we
Yeah,
know,
streets belong
do we
to
know
us.
if they can legally confiscate your property? I mean,
I've
No.
heard of people
I
having
don't
their
think they
bikes,
confiscate it, they put it someplace where you can, until you.
but then
hear-
they have
Well, that's
confiscated their
confiscating it.
lock.
How do
because
they-
have to
yeah,
pay
In
for
fact,
it.
locked
that's,
So now they
that
have
in theory
$10
is
for a
theft.
lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the streets belong to the people of Emeryville.
Well, the police closed them to bicyclists, so.
Yeah, it might have been an Emeryville police
Okay,
letter,
well,
I
I
don't
think
know
we
if
have
it was
to move on
Emeryville,
to
but
our
anyway.
next item here.
I need to excuse myself. Thank you for the invitation.
well, thank you.
I hope to see you all next time or in the
Yes.
future.
Until next time.
All right,
Let's go.
item C, the Christie Avenue Park expansion.
Oh, hello, that's me.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Hey, it's been a long time since I chatted. Okay, so this is just a heads up today. This isn't-
Weird little park.
We're not reviewing anything, we're not making any recommendations, this is just to let you know that this is going on. So as part of the park marketplace PUD approval, a park is required, and this is the location. So, right across the street from, Pacific Park Plaza PDP there, and it's kind of to the northwest of the main, public market building there. So, what's
Is
going?
that where the existing park is? I'm sorry,
Yes.
I'm trying to orient myself.
So, sure, so over here is PPP, Pacific Park Plaza. And the lower left-hand corner is existing public market, kind of the northwest corner of it. This is the existing park, right in the center. And then as part of this, they're required to expand the park to this north area here. It's kind of odd shape, but that's what the requirement is. And I lost my cursor. There we go. So this is the area that's going to be looked at. There's already been one community meeting held by the applicant, and there'll be another one. They're going to Planning Commission for 2 study sessions, the first of which is this month on July 24th. And there are no plans yet. All of this is just to get community feedback. So I'm letting you know that there's this opportunity through community meeting, through Planning Commission, to provide input into park design, what should be at the park, this sort of thing. And once a preliminary design is created, it'll come back to BPAC. It'll also, of course, go to the Parks and Rec Committee for review. And so if you have any questions about the process, definitely contact Senior Planner Miru Desai about it. She's handling this as part of the Marketplace project. And if you have any questions about anything I just said, please let me know. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention that this is going on and give you a heads up.
They actually did a fairly lengthy presentation to Parks and Rec, and we talked about it for, I think, probably close to an hour.
Mhm.
And the people from, I think, City Center Partners or something,
Yeah,
are
the
the
developer
group
there,
that's
yeah.
developing it now. And one of the things that they had asked about was that there's a fairly high berm. I don't know if you're familiar with the Christie Park, but it's a circular park, and then on the south side of the park, there's a fairly high berm that in theory was supposed to block wind or whatever, and then there's seating behind the berm, so there really isn't any seating in the park. And in addition to that, because the berm is there, it really limits the amount of space that they have to work with, because if they keep the berm, they really only have the space from there to the north end of the park. But if they take out the berm, which I and several of the other people at the parks in Rec felt that made more sense to actually take the berm out, because then that opens up the entire area to be used for the park.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we're requesting input on.
So they're just thinking of throwing a little addition on there because they're required to, and what they really should be doing is redesigning this to be more accessible.
No, they're
park.
planning on redesigning it.
Yeah.
They've actually put a fair amount of work into coming up with different ideas about things that could be done there.
Right, so I think part of the question initially was, do people just want to expand it off? Do you like the existing park? And then the feedback I understand so far has been, we can do better. But, we're still in the discussion stage of this, and so I want to let you know that there's this opportunity that will be a planning commission, so that they can get input into the design, and then once that design is developed, it will come back to BPAC.
Okay, I did post the community meeting that they had, so the video was there.
Okay, great.
And one of the things that was mentioned is more lighting. It really needs more lighting over there, because it's pretty dark. But some of those people like the berms, and they like the idea that, it's not open to everybody's view, so there were different opinions. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but, so, thank you.
Well, it's mostly people from Pacific Park Plaza, partly, it's not a very friendly park for when they've had music there or whatever, because it's mostly in shade in the afternoon. They get sun in the morning, but Pacific Park Plaza blocks the sun for most of I think starting around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. The one musical event, I actually went to 2. The first one, there was nobody there at all. There were like 6 or 7 people, and they were all family members of the band. And the other one was put on by the city, and they had a lot of tables, but it was freezing, and it was windy, and it was just really unpleasant. But it gets a lot of use from dog walkers, or from people who are out walking their dogs. But we'd like it to be more of a park that's there for everybody in the city. And another thing is, right now, a lot of people don't even know there's a park there, because when you're driving up or walking up or bicycling up on Christie, the berm blocks the view, so you don't even really see that there is a park there. And so opening it up so people even knew that there was a park there.
So it's a dog park for a bunch of people who are surrounded by parking lots.
Yeah, and if you live at Pacific Park
Right?
Plaza, you
I mean,
look
we're
down,
gonna
it's a
have
nice
rental
piece
and
of.
condos, right?
Big lawn.
Yeah, so when they look down, they
people,
see.
so turn that thing into a dog park for the PPP people.
Yeah.
So we have ideas,
Yeah.
and
But if you don't see the presentation, you don't see all the different designs that they proposed.
right.
Because that's one of the things about the presentation that makes sense. They showed you all these different designs and said, well, which one do you think is best? And that's what you need to look at if you're going to make a choice.
Right.
So,
She's just giving us a heads up.
I'm just giving you,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is just info.
So
that
it
you
doesn't
know
have
this
to be a
is going on.
20-minute item.
Right. So, all right, so unless you have any other questions, I will contact Miru about that if you have questions about how to participate and how to get engaged with the
So
discussion.
they're increasing it by about, what, 40% or something?
I don't know the exact square footage, but
Like
that's
they're taking a
sure.
little corner off and then adding that other piece.
Yes, that's the idea, but I'm also not sure if that's finalized. So once again, I would just direct your questions to Miru, and she can definitely give you accurate information, because I don't know specifics, and I don't want to misinform.
So, any other questions about this?
No.
Right?
All right.
Love our neighborhood day
Woo-hoo!
this Saturday.
It's finally here.
So I just wanted to say, what I would ask of anyone in the group who lives anywhere near the route,
Or inside of it.
or inside of it, to please help us spread the word. We've been doing a lot of outreach, but we can use every voice to explain to people what's gonna happen. And so let me tell you, I didn't bring a map with me, but basically, there's gonna be no parking on 55th, 65th, and Doyle in Emeryville. And on San Pablo. And within that route, you'll be able to park, and it's Powell Street, Stanford will be open. So that'll be the through street, so anyone who lives within this circle can get out by going to Powell Street and then going whichever way they wanna go. There probably will be, additional pressure on parking that day because people will be moving off Doyle Street. And there will be, oh, you're looking for if that links to the
It
page,
has,
that has the
map.
map, yeah.
Exactly, that's what I'm
Yeah,
going to
that'd
for
be
you.
great, thank you, if you can put that
Sure.
up, that'd be awesome. It's gonna be super, super fun, and we could also use more volunteers if anyone feels like volunteering. There's Marcy sent around a link today to sign up
It's
to
11
volunteer.
to 3, huh?
It's 11 to 3, and the volunteer shifts start at 9, and I think they're like 2-hour shifts, just to help, basically helping keep the route safe. But there's gonna be super fun activities. I don't know them all because I haven't been working on that. And if you volunteer, you get a really cool Love Our Neighborhood Day t-shirt with this on it, an orange t-shirt. NHI is gonna give free massages. I'm hoping to get Doyle Street Cafe serving out in the street. That was one question I had. That's okay because the street belongs to whoever, right? Just during those hours. They can put tables out. Well, we're just gonna, you didn't hear me.
Selling or serving?
I don't know if they're gonna wanna serve in the street. Honestly, I think that might mess them up, but.
I know you
it's
always
like-
have to have a clear space, but I would just check with Roselle about.
I'll ask Roselle about it. I don't think I think that's part of the idea is, my neighbors could go out and picnic on the street if they wanted to,
Right.
so why can't the cafe put some tables out?
As long as you have that space that's
Yeah.
clear.
And as long as you can hear the sirens when the fire engines go
Right,
into the street.
yeah. No, I don't think it would be a problem. I don't think they would go into the center of the street or anything. I know, there's gonna be a kid zone in Doyle Hollis Park. There's gonna also be kid stuff in front of the Golden Gate Library. There's gonna be yoga classes and a DJ dance party on 65th Street and, I think martial arts out in the street on San Pablo. I'm not even sure all what. People keep coming and saying they wanna do stuff, so, there's gonna be a lot of fun stuff. I think Ubuntu Coffee across the street is gonna be serving tastes out in the street, so I think it's gonna be super fun. I brought some postcards if anyone needs more postcards. You have some? Anyone wants, I have lots more, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my next door neighbors to take their band outside.
Oh, yeah, they totally should. They just, sure, however
Let me
long,
have
or
some of
sure
those.
if they wanna do that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give them to my neighbors, so.
That'd be great. Yeah, just if you can let people know. You can learn some too. And I think that's it, unless anyone has questions. And I also, I will be out and about on the day, so if there are any problems that you see if you're out there, feel free to call my cell phone.
You're the head of security, huh?
No, I am just not by any means, not by any stretch of the imagination. There will be many people doing that kind of stuff, but I'm just one resource. If I can get you to the right person if there's any problems.
Well, the police is gonna be out there full strength, so everybody's gonna be working that day.
Yeah, the police will be out there. We have a couple of coordinator people who have a number to call, a cell phone. And there'll be route rabbits who will be troubleshooting different segments of the route. So there'll be a lot of people out making sure it's safe. But I think it's gonna be super fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope you can all come for at least part of the day.
Okay, so our next item is the bike share program, which is, nobody's here for that, right?
It was my understanding that Campbell Washington was gonna come and I have no idea.
Yeah, she works for the bike share people or what?
No,
She works for the
she's
city.
She works for the city.
she's an assistant to the city manager working on projects and this is one of them. I can just, so some few months back, I can just give you a little background, which you probably already know, but a few months back, there was some press attention, media attention, to the fact that Oakland and Berkeley were pressing MTC to bring the bike share program that started in San Francisco here to the East Bay, and they wanted to be part of it. And there was an assumption tucked in there that, well, of course, if Berkeley and Oakland do it, then Emeryville's gonna do it. And all of a sudden, we started getting phone calls saying, well, what's Emeryville gonna do? Where are you gonna put it? And when's it gonna start? And it was way premature because we're not even close to any decisions being made as to where bike share stations might be. I mean, we could all think of places where it would be good, but it's way out in the future, like maybe a year from now when that's gonna get to that point.
So at the last MTC meeting, Oakland and Berkeley were trying to push for funding to provide staff to make this happen, and they're still in the throes of those conversations. So until that decision is made, we're not going to know what kind of support we're going to get from them.
I always thought the bike share program was provided by private companies.
So what's
it's different, it's different.
So what's happening with that? Let me just give you a little background on that. The people that run the bike share program in San Francisco, the people that manufacture the bikes, and the company that operates the program, both went out of business, and they have to find new people. And I don't know if somebody's like buying the companies or, how that's going to work. So that was a big hiccup, and that's why it's not just going to start up like really quick. But there's no thought that, oh, it's not going to go forward. It's just, it's going to take a little more time to get that ironed out. There's, so the other thing is the funding. MTC funds the first 3 years. The first year includes the capital investment, which is about $5,000 per bicycle. Operations and maintenance is about $2,000 per bicycle. So for the first year, it's going to be $7,000 per bicycle. The next 2 years, it would be $2,000 per bicycle. So it depends on how many bikes we have. If we had, say, 20 in the city, $4,000 a year. So the first 3 years, it's on MTC. Once that's over, they want cities to take it over. But at that point, the city and MTC, who are the companies that are managing the program, can, up until that time actually, be seeking outside funding sources like sponsorships, maybe Pixar, some of the bigger companies, Bay Street, maybe some of the bigger companies where they have lots of employees, they could see having a pod near their location. There's other things that have to be worked out. Probably most of you know that if you have like 4 bikes here and somebody shows up and they want a bike and there aren't any, that's a problem. So you gotta have somebody driving around, moving the bikes around and making sure that the spaces are covered. And it could be in the course of the day, like maybe all in the morning they end up in one place, but you're only supposed to rent a bike for half an hour, so then somebody has to come and move them to where they should be, during the day so people can use them, if it's Arthur Bart. So the routes have to be figured out. So there's all these things, all these pieces that are going to eventually come together, but as it stands right now, we're sort of on hold, and when they're going to meet with all the jurisdictions that are involved, Emeryville will be part of that. And so Emeryville is definitely part of the process of rolling out a program. And we don't really have much more definite info than that at this point. And Ann was going to come and talk a little bit about that and say some similar things, but.
We had, as a committee, been looking at bike share. I know Peter Allen was interested
Couple
in
years
that.
ago.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had a few different bike share.
What did they guys say those bikes cost? $2,400 a piece or something like that? But they were like real expensive, I thought.
They're all, because they have to be so over-engineered so no one steals them. But I will also say that the system that is being used now, and I don't know if this will change because the company went out of business, but the Dixie bikes, The pods are mobile, they don't require any drilling into the street. So the nice thing about that is that if you put pods in certain locations, you find out, no, they really should be there should be more here, less here. It's very easy, it just takes an afternoon to move.
That makes sense.
They come in groups of 4, I think, and you could just get a truck and move them.
Yeah,
And
that's
I think there's new software that people have been developing apps so that you can look and see which pod near you has bikes in real time. They've been doing a lot of electronic
Well,
stuff.
yeah, I mean, you know, with that
They're
type
all
of money on a
tracked.
bike, they could put a GPS in each one.
They do have that. They have, I think, GPS or RFID, something so that they
Yeah.
can track the bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They totally do, and so they know where the bikes are. So I think there's been huge advances in how this is all.
Yeah, because in Paris, when they
Pretty-
started, a whole bunch of them ended up in the Senate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it doesn't happen anymore. Paris.
So, you know, then there's other pieces like, can you use your Clipper card? Will
Right.
everything go through one card and instead of having separate?
Mhm.
Yeah, they have to,
Parts.
put those together.
That'd be nice.
And there was an article a little while ago about, I think it was New York City, but it could be someplace else, where they said, as you said, that one of the big problems is the amount of time that has to be spent with trucks going around and moving them, you know.
Yeah, I
so
think in
from the
Paris it's
places
like that,
where-
everyone takes them from uphill and
Yeah.
monitor something
And they
like
leave
that.
them
They
in
take them down.
places where nobody then
Yeah.
needs them, and they have to go ship them, they have to take, because they have to
Yeah.
send somebody out, and they pick them up, and they drive them to a location where people will be wanting to get them.
That's why they made it free to bike uphill, actually.
Right.
Really?
Whereas
Oh, you're
yours gets you in
kidding.
and send it to go uphill.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
That's great.
hopefully with all the experience that's already out there, by the time Emeryville does it, it'll be a lot better
Yeah.
than.
Let's make a really quick point too, in that, from what I'm seeing, the process is moving a lot faster than some people had anticipated, which is a great thing. The city of Oakland and Berkeley actually already do have their funding for staff, and they're hiring right now. So they're moving right along. They're going to start doing planning sessions for, locations for pods, and not a ton of community outreach, because that's not really the best way to find pod locations, it turns out, but a fair amount because it's legally required in the fall. And we're hoping that they'll be able to do their rollout as early as 2015. And it's, the issues with the vendors are real, but they're being resolved. There's actually, they've already divided it into the Canadian operations and the US operations. And Alta Planning, which did the bike share in New York, is working on buying the whole operation, which would bring it all in-house and actually bring the cost down per bike considerably and give them a lot more control over the software, which is what the biggest problem is with. So it's actually turning out kind of to be an opportunity to have lower costs than was originally proposed.
To work out the kinks too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there is, work to be done, but I would hate to, frankly, Emeryville is being included in this plan just because of their proximity to Oakland and Berkeley, not because Emeryville has like the density that's usually required to make a really good bike share system. So I think what people in the city need to think about is where does the density exist and where do those locations exist to serve that actually ties into the rest of the bikeway network. So, as we get more details about when Oakland and Berkeley are going to be planning their community outreach meetings, if there's an opportunity, it might be worthwhile to coordinate as the pods are being developed in Oakland. You don't want to have any more than a half mile from pod to pod. So based on where the other pods are going in, it would give us a better idea of where the best locations in Emeryville would be as well. But I hate to see Emeryville get left behind because you're not getting ahead of the issue and doing the things that we can do now.
I'll ask them at the next MTC meeting. I'll stay on them.
Also, I want to say that people who run bike share programs, because I wrote a bunch of articles about them last year, they view this as a transportation system, like a bus system. And if there was a new public transportation system going in East Bay, we wouldn't say, well, just skip us. We don't need public transportation. We would want to be part of it as a city. And so I just would encourage Emeryville to think about this as public transit, another mode of public transit that we can get in on in some way. I think Main Street
There was a
would be
company
great.
that has one of the bike share programs that did a presentation for the Emeryville
Right.
board about 2 years ago, a year or 2 years ago.
They
And
came to us too, I think.
Yeah, we had a few different.
oh, maybe, but this is one I don't remember hearing here, but I did hear it there. And he was talking about one of the things. Denise Pinkson had asked him to come because she was thinking about possibly having one at the public market.
Right.
And possibly about asking some of the larger, like the towers and the public market and different places to possibly have, pods. And he was talking about some of the ways they develop it, the pods are very expensive because that's where you have all the equipment and you have to have a person there and you have, software and computer equipment and hardware to operate it. And then there was another setup which they were looking into at the time, but I don't know what happened to them, but they were talking about possibly having the computer equipment actually on each bicycle. And then the other locations would be something that could really be anywhere. You would just say where you would, and then they would be able to tell, you would just bring it up and you could tell where the bikes were and who had the bike and
I think that is what
I
they've
don't
done.
know what my point is, but.
No, I think that the bikes have computers on them, so, yeah. It's pretty amazing, the technology.
Yeah, so it was sort of interesting, the different ways that they were looking at it.
Anything else on this? We get on with our staff comments, planning department review and update.
All right, third time's a charm.
Yeah.
So I don't have many updates for you this evening, but I did want to let you know that the EBOTS, the Emeryville, Berkeley, Oakland Transit Study, did go to City Council for comment on options, and they requested there to, regardless of, I shouldn't say it that way. I wasn't there, so I'm looking at somebody else's notes. But my apologies. But basically, they wanted to make sure.
Appreciate your honesty.
But they wanted to make sure that a north-south service option was included as an option. And let's see what else here. They also just wanted to make sure that support for continued enhanced go-around was included and reduction of diesel emissions and identification of rights of way that could support a streetcar in the long term. So what could potentially be transitioned into that. So that was City Council's comments, recommendations on that. So the other news is the bike route, which VPAC said yay and recommended to go to Transportation Committee. Transportation Committee recommended to City Council, and that will be going to council as part of the Transportation Committee report on July 15th. So hopefully pretty soon we'll have our first approved bike route. So I'll keep you posted.
That'll be on Adeline, right?
That'll be on Adeline, 3986, I believe is the address, the former Cafe Bière, the upcoming Commonwealth micro hub. So those are my big announcements for today.
Okay, so we have any suggested additional agenda items for our next meeting? Or did we kind of cover a bunch of those?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I was also not sure if there was a meeting in August.
There usually is or something, I'm there.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot
they-
of times in August.
For some
they-
reason, we don't get vacation.
What?
For some reason, we don't get a vacation.
Well, I think that each committee can decide whether they want to meet, because what happens is that the city council takes
They take a break in August,
as
right.
vacation.
Right, well, is there anything
So a
going
lot of
on
the
that
committees decide not
we're
to
gonna
meet.
miss?
Some of the committees decide not to meet.
I don't know, other than the things you guys already talked about that you want to bring up, I don't know if there's any pressing planning.
I wanted something I want on the next meeting agenda. I would like an update from the staff on the Port Street Bike Boulevard traffic comment.
What wasn't the question also, do we want to meet in August?
It's
Well-
gonna be on the next city council agenda.
I am more than
It's on
willing
the
to put
next
it to a
meeting.
vote. We don't know when we want to meet next month. And that would
We
be
should
a,
take a vacation.
she's voting for this, we have a motion here
I
to
move
take
that
a
we have a
vacation
vacation
for
for
August.
August.
Second.
Second, oh, okay. I say let's have our next meeting in September. Anybody opposed to that?
Yeah, I had some committee member comments, a couple of them. I would like to see the city invest in a portable bike rack. I went out to the marina for the event, there's nowhere to put your bike. There is nowhere to put your bike, at all.
Out at the marina?
Not any place. I couldn't find one place to put my bike.
You gotta put it up in a tree.
So if the city had a portable rack, they could put a rack there for 4 or 5 bikes, and whenever we have an event, then we can have a rack. So I would like to
You're
have
talking
a
about
committee.
the 4th of July thing?
Yeah,
There's
you were
place
there,
to-
right?
yeah,
There's no
place-
rack.
I was, my bike there, there's no place to put a bike.
Okay, and then the other thing is, I'd like to see the committee consider putting together an annual bike ride. I think it would be very worthwhile for everybody in the city to have an annual bike ride. I don't know how far it should be or where it would go, but we should all get together and invite every cyclist in the city for an annual bike ride somewhere to be determined in the future.
Outside of the city?
Well, whatever we determine.
Or maybe a little ride around the city. Remember when we did that with the city council people a few years
During the
ago?
planning thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've gone on rides with the East Bay Bike Course, and, and I think they're great. You do an overnight ride, you go up to, I don't know, several places that you can go. There's this place that, I forget the name of it, but it's not that far away. It's an really old town, and I know I went there for an overnight place, and it's just.
Port Costa?
Yeah, Port Costa, right.
Oh,
Where's that?
Yeah, that was a great ride.
That's for bikers, not cyclists.
Yeah, but but it was a great bike ride, and I think everybody that went really enjoyed it. and-
It's like-
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of the name, yeah.
kind of the end of San Pablo Avenue, sort of.
Ken, were you saying that those are agenda items, or you're just throwing them out?
Well, I guess, how do we start the process? I don't know.
Okay.
So I want to say that an opportunity for everyone in the city to go on a bike ride would be this Saturday between 11 and 3.
Right.
There will be
You can
some
ride
very,
around loving your neighbor.
that's right, there will be some very safe streets. You can take your
Exactly.
3-year-old, you can take your 80-year-old grandma, you can take
On a
anybody
bike?
you want. on a bike.
My 80-year-old grandma on a bike, that's gonna
You
be.
never know. Some
Don't.
people's
No.
grandmas want to
Sidecar.
ride bikes. So I would just encourage anyone to,
You can get a vegan donut.
that's right, you could. I'm sure they will
Yes.
be open.
Okay, so committee minimum comments are over?
Can I just ask one question of Mike, which is, I was very happy today to notice that the patch of bike lane on, I don't know the name of that cross street that's right before it goes under the overpass. Yeah, they've been doing all that, the work has now been completed, such a relief. I thought that was never gonna end, but I just wondered when it gets restriped, like what's is there like a time that the city comes out, or is the person who tore it up gonna restripe it?
Yeah, East Bay Mud's responsible for.
Oh, 'cause they had
They'll-
torn it up.
They'll do all the striping at once all the paving's done,
Okay.
so it's probably 2 to 10 days.
Okay,
They're
great.
usually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna declare this meeting adjourned.